In this presentation, we will talk about key points of working hours and leave types in Sweden. Starting on the subject working hours in Sweden, I want to say that the standard work hours per week in Sweden 40 hours. But these hours can vary slightly depending on industry-specific collective agreements. The law also allows for flexible arrangements provided they don't exceed the stipulated limits. In Swedish labor laws, doesn't exist any minimum number of working hours for employment, but part-time work is common, and the specific of minimum hours are typically determined by employment contract or collective bargaining agreements for certain types of contracts, such as an on-call or casual work. The minimum hours may vary and are usually set out in the individual employment agreement or relevant sectoral agreements. So, employees are allowed to work overtime, but there are strict limits. Per year, up to 200 hours of overtime is generally allowed. An additional 150 hours per year may be permitted under specific conditions, making a total of up to 250 hours in exceptional cases. Overtime shouldn't exceed 48 hours over a 4 week period or 50 hours in a calendar month. The law mandates a minimum of 11 consecutive hours of rest per 24 hours period and at least 36 consecutive hours of rest each week. These rest periods are essential to ensure worker health and well-being. In Sweden, working hours divided between evening and night working time. Evening work usually refers to work performed between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Collective agreements specify conditions for evening work are often regulated by collective agreement, including any additional pay or benefits for working these hours. Employers may receive additional compensation, often called a shift differential, for evening work, but this varies based on the industry and specific agreements. Regarding the night and weekend work, night work defined as part performed between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. shouldn't exceed an average of 8 hours per night over a reference period of 4 months. Special conditions apply to high-risk jobs performed at night. There are no specific prohibitions against weekend work, but workers must receive their weekly rest period. Compensation for weekends work may be negotiated through collective agreements. And in Sweden, the maximum allowable length for a probation period is generally 6 months. So, this duration is established by the Employment Protection Act, Lagom Anställningsskydd LAS, which covers employment contracts in the country. Employers and employees may agree to a shorter period, but extending beyond 6 months typically requires exceptional circumstances and may be subject to negotiate or collective agreements. So, employees on probation in Sweden have several important rights. Even so, the employment relationship is considered less permanent during this initial phase. Either party can terminate the employment during the probation period with a notice period typically 2 weeks unless otherwise agreed. This notice period is shorter compared to permanent contracts. So probationary employees are entitled to the same fundamental rights as permanent employees. This includes rights to fair treatment, protection against discrimination, and safe work conditions. Employees on probationary period generally receive the same benefits as other employees, including vacation pay, sick leave, and adherence to working time regulation. The probation period allows employers to assess the employee performance and suitability for the role. employees are often given feedback on their performance and raised for improvement. So this is mandatory for employer. It's not something you can do or not do. Probationary employees have the right to join a union and participate in a union activities. Collective agreements may also cover probationary employees, providing additional protections and benefits. This right ensures that even during a probationary period, employees are safeguarded against unfair treatment and are provided with essential work protections. This period also serves as an opportunity for both the employer and the employer to evaluate the fit of the employment relationship. The types of contracts in Sweden post probation. So, in Sweden, after the completion of probationary period, typically 6 months, the most common contract that is signed is permanent employment contract, tillsvidareanställning. This is the default form of employment in Sweden. It means that employment continues until either the employee or the employer terminates it. The contract usually includes details about salary, working hours, duties, and other terms of employment. So, temporary employment, visstidsanställning. In some cases, depending on the agreement between the employer and the employee, a temporary employment contract might be signed after the probationary period. This contract is for a fixed term or for a specific task, and it ends automatically when the term or task is completed. Project-based or fixed-term employment. In certain industries, a fixed-term contract may be signed for specific projects. This is less common but possible depending on the nature of the work. Important points. Transition to permanent employment. If a temporary or fixed-term contract is extended beyond a certain period, typically 24 months, within a 5-year span, the employee is automatically considered a permanent employee under Swedish law. Termination rules. Once a permanent contract is in place, the employment requires adherence to Swedish labor law, including notice period, severance pay, and just cause for termination. Many companies in Sweden are bound by collective agreements, collective avtal, which might dictate specific terms for contracts post probation. In summary, after the probation period, a permanent employment contract is typically signed, which offers stability and protection under Swedish labor law. Minimum wage in Sweden. In Sweden, there is no universal statutory minimum wage set by law. Instead, wages are typically determined through collective agreements between trade unions and employer organizations. These agreements cover most sectors and ensure that employees receive fair compensation based on standards set with their specific industry. These agreements are negotiated between unions and employers and set wage levels, including minimum wage for various job categories with the industry. They cover about 90% of the workforce in Sweden. The minimum wage varies significantly between different industries and job types, so as collective agreements are tailored to the economic conditions and labor market needs for each sector. Unlike some countries, Sweden doesn't have a government-mandated minimum wage that applies universally across all sectors. Instead, there's strong tradition or collective bargaining ensures that wage standards are set through mutual agreement. So, sick leave policy, also a very important part of Swedish legislation. In Sweden, the rules and regulations surrounding sick leave are designed to provide comprehensive protection and support for employees who are unable to work due to illness. Sick pay of employer, what you have to cover, employer. During the first 14 days or illness, employees are entitled to sick pay from their employer. The amount is typically 80% of the employer's regular pay. So there is a waiting day current stock for which the employees is not paid. However, this waiting period was temporarily abolished during the COVID-19 pandemic to support workers. After 7 days of self-certified sick leave, an employer must provide a medical certificate to continue receiving sick pay. This certificate should be issued by a healthcare provider. If the illness lasts longer than 14 days, the employer can apply for a sickness benefit pending from Swedish Social Insurance Agency. Försäkringskassan. This benefit also typically covers 80% of the salary, but specific rules may apply and there are income caps for the benefits amount. The employer is required to report their sickness to Försäkringskassan if the employee is expected to be sick for more than 15 days. For extended periods of illness, additional assessment and certificates may be required. There are different benefits and rehabilitation programs available depending on the duration and severity of the illness. Employees on sick leave have protection under Swedish law preventing employer from terminating their employment due to their illness. Many sectors have specific collective agreements that might offer more favorable conditions than the statutory minimums. This regulation ensures that employers have access to financial support and job security while they recover from illness. It's also important to note that rules and entitlements can vary based on specific circumstances, including the nature of employment and collective agreements in place. So, leave vacation period in Sweden, employers are entitled to a minimum 25 paid vacation days per year as per Swedish Annual Leave Act, semester law. This entitlement applies regardless of the employee's age or type of employment, whether full-time or part-time. For those who start working after August 31st in any given year, only 5 days are granted for that year until April 1st of the following year. The law also mandates that employees should ideally be able to take 4 consecutive weeks of vacation during the main vacation period, which spans from June to August. These rights can vary based on collective agreements, which may specific different arrangements depending on the industry. Vacation pay in Sweden is usually based on the regular salary, any fixed salary supplements, and the additional vacation pay increments. It is important to note that the vacation is only received if the employer has earned these rights during a qualifying year, which runs from April 1st to March 31st the following years. Employers must notify employees of their vacation date at least 2 months in advance, and employers are generally required to follow the vacation schedule set by the employer unless otherwise agreed upon union regeringskansliet. So, in Sweden, the social welfare system offers a variety of leave types designed to support employees in balancing work and personal life. These leaves include maternity, paternity, parental, child care, and other types of leave. Here's an overview I will show you. Parental leave, föräldraledighet, I can't pronounce it still. Duration, parents are entitled to a total of 480 days, approximately 16 months, of paid parental leave per child. This leave can be shared between both parents. Of these, 390 days are paid at higher rate and 19 days are paid to a lower rate. Each parent is guaranteed 19 days, 3 months of the total leave, which cannot be transferred to the other parent, known as daddy months or mommy months. Flexible use parental leave can be taken in various ways, such as full-time, part-time, or in intervals until the child turns 8 years old or completes their first year of school. The amount is based on the parent's income, with the first 319 days paid at about 80% of the salary up to a certain limit, and the remaining 19 days at a flat rate. Maternity leave. So, expectant mothers can take up to 50 days or leave about 7 weeks before the expected date of delivery. This is separate from parental leave. So, if the work uh, environment is deemed unsafe for a pregnant woman, she can receive pregnancy cash and from the Swedish Social Insurance Agency for Försäkringskassan if no other suitable work can be offered by the employer. So, a woman can also take up to 6 months of unpaid leave following the end of their parental leave. About paternity leave, pappaledighet. Father or the second parent are entitled to 10 days of paid leave in connection with the birth or adoption of a child, which can be taken either consecutively or divided over time. This leave is compensated at the same rate as sick pay. Temporary parental leave, BART of BARN. Parents are entitled to temporary parental leave if their child is sick or if the regular caregiver is unavailable. Up to 120 days per year per child under the age of 12. For children aged 12-15, the entitlement is also 120 days, but within additional conditions. Paid approximately 80% at the parent's salary. Care for a closely related person, närståendevård. For seriously ill relatives, employers can take employees can take leave to care for a close relative who is seriously ill, up to 100 days per ill relative. The leave is partially paid by the state at about 80% of the salary. So, adoption leave, adoptive ledighet. Adoptive parents are entitled to the same parental leave benefits as biological parents. Leave can start from the day the child comes into the parent's custody. So, study leave, studieledighet. Employers have the right to take leave for educational purpose. Employers are required to allow employees to return to their job after completing their studies. Compensation leave. While not mandated by law, it is common for employers to offer compensation leave following the death of a close family member. This leave is typically a few days, depending on the employer policies or collective agreements. So, sick leave, actually, we talked about the employer pays sick pay for the first 14 days at 80% of of the employee's salary with qualifying day without pay. After that, the Swedish Social Insurance Agency takes over compensation. So there's leave for personal reason. Employee can request unpaid leave for personal reasons such as starting a business. Also, this is subject to employer approval unless specified by law or collective agreements. So also we talk about annual leave, which employees are entitled to at least 25 days of paid vacation. Employees receive their regular salary plus a vacation pay bonus during this time. So these leave types reflects Sweden's strong commitment to supporting work-life balance, gender equality, and family welfare. For specific details, or if you are planning to take a particular type of leave, it is advisable to consult your employer or local union, as collective agreements may provide additional benefits. So, also, there are working conditions for disabled employees in Sweden. are regulated by various laws and guidelines to ensure equal opportunity, accessibility, and safe working environment. Here are some key aspects. Anti-discrimination and equal treatment. These laws prohibit discrimination based on disability in the workplace. Employers are required to ensure that disabled employees are treated equally and have the same opportunity as others. This includes hiring, salary, promotion, training, and other employment conditions. So employers are obligated to make reasonable adjustment to the workplace and work processes to accommodate employees with disabilities. This can include modifications such as adjusting work station or equipment, providing assistive devices, modifying work schedule or task, ensuring accessible facilities. So the workplace must be accessible to all employees, including those with physical disabilities. So the Swedish Public Employment Service Arbetsförmedlingen provides support to employers in hiring and retaining employees with disabilities. These can include financial aid for workplace adaptation and salary subsidies. So employees with disabilities may also receive personal support such as job coach or personal assistant to help them perform. Um, Also, there's work environment. This legislation ensures that all workers in Sweden provide a safe and healthy environment for employees. Employers must take into account the specific needs of disabled employees in their health and safety protocols. So, employees with disability are protected from unfair dismissal. Employers must justify any decision to terminate employment and cannot base it solely on the employer's disability. So employers may offer flexible working hours or the option to work from home to accommodation the needs of employers with disabilities, providing specialized software or hardware such as screen readers for visually impaired employees ensure accessibility, ensuring that work space are accessible with features like wheelchair ramps and elevator to accommodate physical disabilities. So, Discrimination Act provides legal framework against discrimination. Work Environment Act, Arbetsmiljölagen, outlines the obligation of employees to ensure a safe and healthy work environment. The Swedish Public Employment Service, Arbetsförmedlingen, offers various programs and support both employers and employees. This framework ensures that disabled employees in Sweden have the right to equal treatment, access to necessary accommodation, and protection of their employment. So also let's talk about types of termination in Sweden. The process and rights surrounding employment termination are quite structured and aim to protect both employees and employers. Here's broad overview how it works. So dismissal for personal reason, individual dismissal. This may include reasons like poor performance, misconduct, or other personal reasons. Employers need to have valid and substantial grounds to dismiss an employer. The employer must follow a specific procedure, including providing warning and possibility offering a chance for improvement. So dismissal for economic reasons, collective dismissal. This often involves downsizing or restructuring. In these cases, the employer must demonstrate economic necessity. So requires consultation with trade unions and notification to relevant authorities. So notice periods. The notice period for depends on the employer's length of services and may applicable collective agreements. It generally range from 1 to 6 months. Employer rights. During the notice period, employees are typically entitled to their regular salary and benefits. So, employers are usually required to issue written warning before dismissal, giving the employer a chance to improve if there's some issue happened. Before making a decision to the employer should consult with the employer and, if applicable, the trade union. Employers must consult with trade unions and follow collective agreements. Employers must notify the employment agency Arbetsförmedlingen and provide information about the layoffs. Employer rights, severance pay, not mandatory under Swedish law, but may be covered by collective agreements or individual employment contracts. Employers can appeal a dismissal by filing a complaint with the Swedish Labor Court, Arbetsdomstolen, if they believe the dismissal was unfair. Unemployment benefits eligibility. Employees who lose their jobs may be eligible for employment benefits through the unemployment insurance system across. So, discrimination and fairness protection. Employees are protected against discrimination on various grounds, including gender, age, disability, and ethnicity. Employees who believe they have been unfairly dismissed or discriminated against can seek legal resources through the labor court or other relevant bodies. Many aspects of termination and employment rights are influenced by collective bargaining agreements between unions and employer. This agreement can provide additional protection or benefits beyond the statutory minimum. Navigating employment termination in Sweden involves adhering to specific legal and procedural requirements. Employers and employers alike benefit from understanding these rights and responsibility to ensure a fair and legal process.